This is the Truth Network.
The heart of every man craves a great adventure, but life doesn't usually feel that way. Jesus speaks of narrow gates and wide roads, but the masculine journey is filled with many twists and turns. So how do we keep from losing heart while trying to find the good way when life feels more like a losing battle than something worth dying for? Grab your gear and come on a quest with your band of brothers who will serve as the guides in what we call the masculine journey. The masculine journey starts here now.
In boot camp, how?
So I actually discovered this whole experience from the podcast, actually. So it's kind of cool to actually be featured on the podcast because that's how I discovered this whole experience. So
Cool.
yeah, it was really cool. I was just going through a really hard season in life, still am, to be honest with you. But it was about two and a half months ago, and I was just Googling. I just Googled around for resources on how to, just how God could help through hard times.
Okay.
So I was just kind of searching around online, just looking for more immediate resources to kind of help me go through that, and I actually found the Masculine Journey Radio on Apple Podcast, and I started listening to it pretty much constantly.
Wow.
Kind of went through really listened to almost every episode, and just really, really enjoyed it. Loved the topics, and then I heard a ton about you guys talking about the boot camp, and sounded like something I wanted to be a part of.
And so you decided to go ahead and register and come a week or two ago, 3 weeks ago. How long ago did you register?
I registered back in September, so actually shortly after I started listening to the podcast. Right. It's just really kind of at a crossroads in my life and just really wanting to find a way to get closer to God and more intimate. So, yeah.
And you've got a unique story about the guy you came with, also from Nashville. Tell that story a little bit for us.
That is correct. Yeah. So Alex, who's also here at the boot camp this weekend, we actually met on Tuesday. It's now Saturday, so so it was really cool. Yeah, we actually attend a young adults church ministry in Nashville called Kairos. It's connected to Brentwood Baptist Church in Nashville. So I actually met him on Tuesday night through a random connection through my current roommate, actually, and we bumped into each other at church. He had mentioned he had just read Wild at Heart by John Eldredge, and I was like, I actually just listened to the audiobook like 4 weeks ago myself. I was just kind of really interested in looking for opportunities to grow, and he mentioned, he's like, I actually been praying about wanting to go on some kind of retreat. Haven't been in like 4 or 5 years to any type of retreat. And he was like, I was like, well, as a matter of fact, I'm actually going to one on Thursday in North Carolina that I kind of randomly stumbled upon online. And he's like, well, can I come? And I was like, sure. Yeah. I mean, I think you can still register. So he's like, I'll let you know tomorrow if I'm interested. And he texted me on Wednesday and was like, dude, I'm down. Let's go. And I was like, all right, man, I'll pick you up at 7 a.m. on Thursday morning. We'll go to North Carolina.
So one of the coolest things about guys coming as far away as like Nashville to this is it's a road trip too. So the adventure starts long before you even get here, right? And you're getting to know somebody new. You've never known them before, and all of that happens. But okay, so now you're here. So what's been the most impactful thing thus far for you?
Yeah, great question. So it's been an interesting journey because I could go more into my story, but more specifically about what's going on this weekend. For me, one of my biggest goals in this is to learn how to be like intimate with God, and I think that's something that I've never ever been able to do. I've grown up in a Christian home my whole life, and just felt like I've never been able to like create this like more intimate like relationship with Jesus that like I feel like so many people have, but it's really hard for me to like understand how that's possible. But
so have things this weekend begun to help you on that discovery?
I think so. I would say one of the most beneficial things so far for me has been the Covenant of Silence times. I just like live a really busy lifestyle, like pretty much everyone, and I never really carve out that time to get close to God and to allow myself to pray to Him, but also to hear from Him. And that's like a concept that I've never truly gotten behind in my life, and just to have that 1 hour like carved out specifically to reflect upon the topics that we discussed today more specifically has been super impactful. So.
Was that a weird thing for the first time that you did that covenant of silence here this weekend? Because it's not, you take a bunch of guys and say, hey, go outside, get along with God for an hour, don't talk to anybody else. It's not a normal thing for most of us. Again, as you said, we're all too busy. How did that go for you the first time? Without specific, you don't have to tell that, but just what was your reaction? How did that work for you?
Yeah, I definitely struggled with it, and each one has been challenging for me, just because it does feel unnatural for me to just sit there in pure silence. And I did audibly like talk to God like in those covenant of silence times, but it was definitely out of my comfort zone. Did feel a little unnatural, but ultimately I think it was really, really beneficial. So. And
the funny thing is, I would say almost every single boot camp that we've ever done, and we've done a bunch now, that's what most of the guys say. The talks are great. Obviously, the talks are launching pads, springboards, but those covenant of silence, because in this room, people don't know everybody else's story, but those covenant of silence, when you can literally get along with God. And for me, outdoors is great. I love being outdoors, but just to focus on that, and it just changes everything. And almost every guy says that's one of the most impactful things is the covenant of silence.
It's always when we shut up, right? I mean, when we stop talking and we let God have some room, that's when things happen. And so, Tyler, give Tyler the mic there for a minute. Don't go anywhere. Just hang out with us. But Tyler, you've been to a few boot camps in the past.
Yeah, this is 4 or 5 for me.
Okay. And yet it'd been a while since you'd been back, and there's a lot of different reasons for that, and those weren't your fault necessarily, probably mine more than anything. It's hard to spend a lot of time with me. Most people know that. And so, so how's this boot camp been for you?
I've said this to a couple people, it's a different experience for me now than it was 5 years ago, because I was newly married. I'd only been married for a couple years when I started coming to these, and had a very different relationship with my wife then than what I have now, and we've gone through a lot personally. So I feel like our marriage is stronger now than it was then, just over time, and just because of what we've gone through. I've had a kid. I have a 4-year-old now, so I'm approaching this not just as a husband, but also as a father. So these talks have a whole new meaning to me, and the God as a father talk. Back then, I would always kind of look to my father and compare that, but now it's a little bit more of like, am I living up to that as a father for my son? Am I impressing that stuff even at his young age? Am I showing him that stuff now? Is he going to grow up to be a good man of God because of what I'm doing right now?
Yeah, and that's one reason why I asked you to come up here, because I knew your story. Yeah. I knew that you and Anna had just not been married too long when you first came to the boot camps, and I knew, some of the things you guys have gone through, and the fact that Scooter is around now, and that's his son's name. I don't know why he named him Scooter, but I love it. I like that name. His real name's not Scooter, but it might as well be.
That's his social media name.
That's his social media name. That's right. And I follow Scooter on social media. And so I totally understood it, and I love what you said. That when you were here before, you heard some talks in one avenue, and you're thinking more about you and what you're getting from someone else. And now you're hearing things, and yes, that's still a part of it, but now you're hearing it in relation to you and what you are giving someone else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think also, and I don't know if resentment is a word, but
it is a word.
My parents weren't deeply involved in the church, but they made sure that we were. They got back involved, and this is the common story with, I think, parents that have kids that didn't go to church. They get back involved because they know there's something missing, and they want their kids to have that. We had that experience. We grew up in the church, and I kind of resented my dad for a long time, hearing these talks about I didn't have that godly influence to look up to. And just being around you guys during boot camp and knowing Derek and the relationship that you and Derek had, I was jealous of that, and I was upset with my dad. But I've thought a lot about it this week, and even though I didn't have that godly relationship with him, he was a great man. He is. He's still around. He's a great man. Mm-hmm. I talked to him as much as possible. He instilled a lot of stuff in me. So it's cool to see that now, mm-hmm. that I don't need to resent him because I didn't have that. Because I had people in my life that poured into me. Mm-hmm. So even though he wasn't, I was getting it. I just wasn't getting it from my father. But he taught me, hard work. He taught me respect. He taught me how to love my wife. My parents are still married, and he's loved my mom for 40 some years, and so he taught me what a good marriage looks like. He taught me what a hardworking man looks like and how to take care of your family. Mm-hmm. So I got a lot from him, and that's something I realized this week, is I don't need to resent him for those quote unquote father wounds that I envisioned from him, because I got that from somewhere, and he taught me a lot of stuff.
I kind of dealt with that the same way. I tell everybody, my father is the world's best father. Okay, I don't care what you say about yours, mine's better, right? And I love my dad to death. Now, my dad passed away about 4 years ago, and he taught me so much, loved on me and mentored me, and literally until the day he died, he was probably my best friend, and we talked regularly. And always did. And never in my life do I remember a time when I didn't want to talk to my dad, or I felt uncomfortable talking to my dad. And yet, my dad never went to church with me. Mm-hmm. He didn't take my mom. My mom did, and I'm so thankful that she did. But Dad didn't take me to church. He didn't teach me how to pray. He didn't teach me how to study the scriptures. He taught me a lot about what it looks like to be a man, but he didn't teach me a lot about what it looks like to be a godly man from a very biblical perspective. Now, was he a godly man? Yes, he was. And did he die with a strong faith? Yes, he did. And his relationship and his walk with Jesus grew immensely in the last 20 years of his life. But I did kind of have that resentment too, that, I didn't get some of this stuff. And I resented guys like me and my son, and the relationship that we have. Of course, he had to come to church because I was a preacher, yeah. So we didn't have a choice. Now, Eli, going back to you, so I asked you what's the most impactful thing, and you said the covenant of silence. What's been the most surprising? Has anything happened that you were like, man, I didn't think that was going to happen on a men's weekend or something like that?
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about, as we've been discussing here, I think two of the talks in the response times afterward that have been probably most impactful were the wound, and then also the agreements that we talked about today that we make, kind of almost these things that we say to ourselves, like this self-talk. That's something I've always struggled with, is kind of that, honestly, self-hatred, and just kind of telling myself that, like, I'm not worth it, and that's something that was impactful to me that I found in the the covenant of silence time, even today. But the wound, for sure, I as soon as we finished up that topic, I went out and definitely was emotional, kind of going out into the woods just to have that time. And there's been some pretty serious tragedies in my life recently. Unfortunately, I guess I'll say this on the podcast. My brother actually passed away on July 30th of this year, and it was super tragic, super unexpected. Mm-hmm. And he was only 24, and he's my best friend, and it was really, it destroyed me, and it still is, and it's still fresh. It's only about 3 months ago. Mm-hmm. And I am kind of walking through that right now, and it's kind of really challenged my faith, and there's some other things too, but just that's something that was a wound for me, and it still is. But there are other things, like in my family, that have been wounds that have came up in that response time for me, and just went out there and kind of wept, honestly, mm-hmm. with God, and I felt like it created some kind of connection there that I haven't experienced much recently, or maybe ever. But it was a really good, I think it was a really good thing to go through and experience. So I would say those two have probably been the most impactful in those response times too.
And this would be for both of you guys. All of us on the team were at least in our late 30s or 40s till we really grasped this message, which is obviously the gospel, where God really revealed this to us. you guys are definitely not in your 40s. So it's always been, at least my desire, I think everybody's desire is, we wish we could have gotten it younger. Darren's got his grandsons here. I've actually got my sons here this week, which is just crazy. Mm-hmm. Awesome, but so weird and crazy and great.
10 years ago when we started it, I wouldn't have thought about my grandsons or your sons, but,
yeah, definitely.
Robbie Dillmore here, and the Truth Network podcasts have helped make MyPillow the company it is today. And now Mike Lindell, who, by the way, I've met and is a great guy, the inventor and CEO of MyPillow, wants to give back to our listeners. For the first time, you can get deep discounts on all MyPillow products if you go to MyPillow.com right now and click on the new radio listener specials. Who never thought that my dream job would be selling MyPillows? Maybe you're getting tired of these sleeping jokes, but you can get deep discounts on MyPillows, mattress toppers, bed sheets, and so much more. For example, the body pillow is regularly $89.99, but with a promo code GETTRUTH, it's only $29.99. Remember, all MyPillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. Just go to MyPillow.com and click on the new radio listener specials and get deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the body pillow for only $29.99. Enter promo code GETTRUTH or call 800-942-9613 for these great radio specials.
Hi, this is Sam with Masculine Journey. I'm here with my son Eli. We're going to talk about ways that you can help support the ministry. One way, you can go to smile.amazon.com. There's information on our website there on how to do that.
Then you can go to facebook.com where you can click the donate button, or you can go to masculinejourneyradio.org. Once again, look for the donate button.
Or if you want to mail something in, mail it to P.O. Box 550, Kernersville, North Carolina, 27285.
What God Does at Masculine Journey Radio Boot Camp.
When I first got here, I was kind of closed off. Didn't really want to talk to anybody because I thought I was stupid. I didn't believe. I'm not going to lie to you. I feel like each person who spoke kind of chipped away at this feeling I was having and chipped away at this mask I was hiding behind. I've never heard anybody speak about God and Jesus and the way we're supposed to feel like you guys have this weekend.
Coming November 7th through the 10th, go to masculinejourneyradio.org and register today.
So, as younger guys, married with children, single, no children, does this giving you a leg up, you think? Maybe a little slight advantage that maybe some others didn't have. Obviously, there's some things that we're talking about that maybe you guys haven't totally experienced yet, and hopefully there's things that we've been through that you guys don't have to go through. That's ultimately one of the goals, is when you help anybody else out, right? You're trying to prevent them from falling into the trap. As a dad, you know that now with your son. So thoughts on that is hitting this a little bit younger than some of the other guys.
Yeah, I'll speak to that for a second. I'm 26 and, graduated from college back in 2016, just kind of trying to figure out life since then. And I really do think, like I mentioned before, I feel like I'm kind of at a crossroads in my life right now with my faith, but also just moving forward. I want to live with purpose, and I think it does. I think it would give me, give me a leg up, and I kind of recognize I need things like this in my life. I need mentors. I need events like this to kind of propel me forward in my faith, but also how I can interact with the world and with people, and just to create a stronger bond with God and with my relationships, because I just know if I don't take care of it now, it could really come up to bite me later in life, and it'll only just get more challenging, more difficult to progress. And I think that's kind of what I recognized is I need to really start investing in myself now before it's almost, I don't know if it's never too late, but I think it could save me a lot of pain and struggles along the way.
So, Tyler, I mean, you're seeing it differently now. I mean, you'd read Wild at Heart before you ever met me and before you ever came to a boot camp, and so we were just kind of continuing something that you were already digging into.
Yeah, I read Wild at Heart and some other John Eldredge stuff back in high school. I was really into that. I read some Joshua Harris and stuff like that, and what your opinion of him is beyond this right now, but at the time a lot of that spoke to me, and I was I was very intent on living as a good Christian man for a long time. You know, I was introduced to this at a young age, but I think being here and actually hearing it in person and seeing people live it out through boot camp, and just knowing some of you guys outside of this, and that opened a whole new door in my mind of like, oh, that's what it looks like, okay. And you know, the few that I was involved with back then, and then 5 years later at a completely different point in my life, and having gone through some stuff and having my personal faith tested and our marriage tested with some issues, and just coming through, I think, on the better side of it and coming out stronger, and seeing this message again and hearing this stuff from a different angle. It's just, I'm continually being worked on, and it just keeps adding to the beliefs and ideas I already had.